Supreme Counselor Ta stood at the large window of the council tower. His three-fingered hand touched the glass as he looked at the stars. Thousands of worlds with billions of beings lived under those stars. All of them followed the rules of the Galactic Council, all except one world. Supreme Counselor, the meeting will start soon, said an aide, bowing low. Ta nodded and turned from the window. He was old, even for his long-lived species. His blue skin had faded to a pale shade, and the ridges on his head had grown thick with age. He had served on the council for over 200 years. In all that time, one rule had never changed: never wake the humans. The meeting room was large and round. Seats rose in circles, filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had scales, some had fur, some floated in tanks of liquid, some were made of living crystal, but all fell silent when Ta entered. "The council meeting begins," announced Ta, his voice firm despite his age. "First, we will hear the report from the Sol System Guard." A tall, thin alien stepped forward. Captain Mun of the patrol fleet bowed deeply. "Supreme Counselor, members of the council, I bring news from the restricted zone. The automated beacons around the human world continue to function. Our ships maintain their distance as ordered. The humans remain asleep." A murmur of relief passed through the room. It was the same report they heard every cycle, but still, everyone was glad to hear it. "Has there been any change in the planet's condition?" asked Ta. "The healing continues, Supreme Counselor. The poison in their air has decreased by 2% since our last report. Their ocean shows signs of recovery. In perhaps 500 more years, their world may be fully healed." Ta nodded. "And the hibernation facilities?" "All 7 major complexes remain powered and functioning. Our scans detect no change in status." A younger council member stood up. He was from a species that had joined the galactic community only 50 years ago. "Supreme Counselor, I must ask again. Why do we spend so many resources guarding a sleeping world? Many younger species have never even seen a human. Are they not just stories to frighten children?" Several older council members gasped at these words. Tay raised his hand for calm. "Council Member Kyo, your question is reasonable. But understand this: humans are very real, and the danger they pose is not a story." Tay touched a control on his chair. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a small blue planet, Earth, the human homeworld. Before they went to sleep, humans had just begun to explore space. They had visited their moon and sent simple machines to nearby planets. Their technology was primitive. The hologram changed to show strange, 2-armed beings with no scales or fur, just bare skin and hair on their heads. But in the short time they ventured beyond their world, humans encountered 3 other species. The hologram showed 3 different alien races, all with advanced ships and weapons. All 3 species saw humans as easy targets. All 3 attacked without warning. All 3 were completely destroyed by the humans within a single orbit of their planet around their star. The room was silent. Humans are adaptable. They think in ways we cannot predict. Their bodies are fragile, but they turn this weakness into strength through cleverness and determination. And most dangerous of all, they do not surrender. Even when defeat is certain, they continue to fight. They would rather die than submit. Tay turned off the hologram. 500 cycles ago, humans nearly destroyed themselves in a global war. The survivors chose to enter hibernation. They built great underground chambers and went to sleep, programming their machines to wake them only when their world was healed. Ta looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each council member. "We did not force them into sleep. They chose it themselves, and we have one rule about their world: we do not wake them. For if humans rejoin the galaxy before they are ready, before they have learned to control their nature..." He paused. "None of us may survive." The council chamber remained silent. Even the young questioner sat down, no longer doubting. "The human watch will continue," said Todd firmly. "As it must." Captain Jin checked the damage report and frowned. The Starlight was in bad shape. Laser fire had torn through the ship's left engine, and the hull had 3 breaches that emergency fields barely contained. "How much longer can we run?" he asked, looking at his small crew on the bridge. Navigator Hannah shook her head, her silver skin reflecting the red warning lights. "Not long, Captain. We have enough fuel for one more jump." Engineer Wu tapped at his screen with 4 quick fingers. "The engine won't hold after that. We'll be dead in space." Jin closed his eyes. They had been running for 6 days, ever since they discovered the secret files about the Krell Empire's new weapons. Weapons that could destroy entire planets. Weapons that broke every treaty in the galaxy. "They're gaining on us," said Hannah. 3 Krell battle cruisers, closing fast. Jin looked at the star map. They had only one chance. "Plot a course for the Sol system," he said quietly. The bridge went silent. Medic Sun, who had been tending to a burn on Wu's arm, dropped her medical tool. "Captain," she whispered, "that's the forbidden zone. The human world." "I know," said Jin. "But the Krell won't follow us there. Even they respect that rule." "Or fear it," added Wu. Hannah's hand shook as she entered the coordinates. "Captain, if we're caught near Earth, we'll face execution. The Council doesn't allow any exceptions." Jin nodded. "If the Krell catch us, we're dead anyway. And if the Council learns what we know about the Krell's secret weapons, maybe they'll forgive our trespass." The ship rocked as enemy fire struck their shields. "Shields at 20%, shouted Wu. "Jump now," ordered Jin. The stars stretched into lines as the Starlight entered hyperspace. For a moment, all was quiet. Then alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "The engine is overheating," reported Wu, his eyes wide with fear. "We can't maintain hyperspace." The ship shuddered violently. Panels exploded in showers of sparks. "We're dropping out early," said Hannah, "right at the edge of the Sol system." With a final lurch, the Starlight returned to normal space. Through the view screen, Jin could see a yellow star. Around it circled 9 planets. The third one was blue and green. Earth, the human homeworld. "Engine is dead," said Wu. "Life support running on backup power." Jin checked the sensors. "Any sign of the Krell ships?" Hannah shook her head. "No, Captain. But I'm picking up automated warning beacons all around the system." And she paused. "Something else. A patrol ship of the Sol System Guard." Jin felt his heart sink. "Can they see us?" "Not yet. We're behind the 6th planet. But once we move—" "We can't stay here," said Sun. "We'll run out of air in hours." Jin made his decision. "Plot a course for Earth. We'll try to land and make repairs." "Land on Earth," gasped Hannah. "Captain, that's breaking the biggest rule in the galaxy." "We don't have a choice," said Jin firmly. "We won't wake any humans. We'll just land, fix our ship, and leave. No one will know." As the damaged ship limped toward the blue planet, warning signals began to flash across their comm system. "The patrol ship has spotted us," said Hannah. "They're sending warnings to turn back immediately." "Ignore them," ordered Jin. "We can't turn back now." On the main screen, Jin could see a message repeating in many languages. "Restricted zone. Do not approach. By order of the Galactic Council." Below it was a second message, one that made Jin's skin grow cold. "Woarnang. Humans sul iping. Do not go uaki." Extreme danger. The Starlight shook as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Fire surrounded the ship as it fell toward the surface. "I found a landing spot," said Hannah. "Mountains on a landmass they called Asia. No settlements nearby." "Do your best," said Jin. "And may the stars forgive us." The ship plunged toward Earth, trailing smoke and fire. Behind them, the patrol ship sent urgent messages to the Galactic Council. The one unbreakable rule had been broken. Smoke rose from the crashed ship. The Starlight lay in a small valley, surrounded by tall green trees and rocky mountains. One wing was completely gone, the other hung by thin metal threads. "Is everyone alive?" asked Jin, pushing himself up from the floor. His crew groaned but answered. They had survived. "Where are we exactly?" asked Sun as she checked a cut on Hannah's forehead. Hannah pulled up a map on her small handheld device, a place humans called South Korea, not heavily populated, even before they went to sleep. Jin looked out through a cracked window. The air was clear, the plants were green. Birds flew in the blue sky. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "Hard to believe this world was once poisoned." "Captain," called Wu from outside the ship. "You need to see this." Jin climbed out through the broken airlock. Wu was standing on a flat rock, pointing at the ground. "I found this when I was checking for a place to set up camp." Jin looked where Wu was pointing. There was a metal plate in the rock. It had strange symbols on it. Human writing. "Can you read it?" asked Jin. Wu nodded. "Our computers translated it. It says Emergency Access, Hibernation Facility 3. Jin felt a chill run through his body. "We crashed on top of a human hibernation facility." "It seems so," said Wu. "And there's more. I found this." He held up a small metal object. "It's a key card. I think it opens the door." Jin carefully took the card. "We should leave it alone. We're already breaking rules by being here." "Captain," called Hannah from the ship. "Long-range sensors are picking up movement. The Krell followed us. They'll be here in less than a day." Jin's 4 hearts beat faster. "Are you sure?" "Yes. They must have tracked our jump coordinates." Jin looked at the key card in his hand. "We need to hide the ship. If the Krell find us, they'll kill us and take what we know about their weapons." "We could hide inside the facility," suggested Wu. "Just temporarily. We won't touch anything." Jin knew it was wrong. The facility contained sleeping humans, but they had no choice. "All right," he said, "but we stay in the entrance only. We don't go deep inside." It took them an hour to find the door. It was hidden under moss and dirt. When Jin placed the key card on a small panel, the door slid open with a hiss of air. The 4 aliens stared into the dark opening. Dim lights came on automatically, showing a long tunnel going down into the earth. "Bring only what we need," ordered Jin. "Food, water, and tools to repair the communicator. We'll call for help once we're safe." They entered cautiously. The tunnel led to a large room with metal walls. More tunnels branched off in many directions. The air was cool and smelled clean. "Amazing," whispered Sun. "Their technology still works after 500 years. "Look at this," said Hannah, pointing to a screen on the wall. It showed a map of the facility. "This place is huge. It goes for kilometers under the mountains." Jin studied the map. "There are 7 levels. We're only on level 1. "What's on the other levels?" asked Wu. Hannah touched the screen. "Level 2, food storage. Level 3, water and air systems. Level 4, medical facilities. Levels 5, 6, and 7. She paused. "Hibernation chambers." "How many?" asked Jin quietly. Hannah's voice trembled. "Millions, just in this facility alone." A loud boom shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. "What was that?" asked Sun. Wu checked a small device. Something entered the atmosphere, fast and hot. "Not natural." "The Krell," said Jin. "They're here already. They must have pushed their engines to the limit." Another boom, closer this time. "They're firing weapons," said Wu. "Looking for us." Jin looked at the map again. Then he looked at his crew, his friends. They were scared. They were trapped. And now they were being hunted. "We need to go deeper," he said. "We need to hide on the lower levels." "But Captain," said Sun, "that's where the humans are sleeping." Jin nodded gravely. I know. May the stars forgive us. As they moved toward the stairs, none of them noticed a small red light beginning to blink on the wall behind them. A soft voice spoke in a human language none of them understood. Perimeter breach detected. Security protocols activated. Deep below, in the darkness of level 7, something was waking up. Jin and his crew moved quickly down the stairs. Level after level, they went deeper into the human facility. More explosions shook the ground above them. The Krell are getting closer, said Wu, looking at his scanner. They must have found our ship. When they reached level 5, they stopped to rest. The room was large and cold. Long rows of metal containers filled the space. Each container was the size of a sleeping person. These are hibernation pods, said Sun softly. She touched one gently. Frost covered a small window on top. There's someone inside. Jin looked through the frosty window. Inside was a human, sleeping peacefully. Its skin was pale. It had dark hair and a face that looked almost like Jin's species, but with no ridges and only 2 eyes. We shouldn't be here, said Jin. This is wrong. More explosions rocked the facility. Closer now. Lights flickered. Captain, said Hana urgently. The main computer says the Krell have broken through the entrance. They're inside the facility. Jin's 4 hearts raced. How many? At least 20 soldiers, heavily armed. Jin looked at his small crew. They had only 2 simple weapons between them. They were scientists and traders, not fighters. We need to hide, he said. Go to level 7. Maybe we can. A loud alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed all around them. A voice spoke in the human language. What's it saying? Asked Sun fearfully. Wu checked his translator. Emergency protocols activated. Awakening security personnel. Jin felt sick. No. We've triggered their systems. In front of them, one of the hibernation pods made a hissing sound. The frost on the window melted away. The top began to open slowly. We have to stop it, cried Jin. But it was too late. The pod was opening. Inside, the human's eyes fluttered. The 4 aliens backed away, terrified. They had broken the one rule. They had awakened a human. The pod opened completely. The human sat up slowly. It was wearing a tight black uniform with strange symbols on the chest. It took a deep breath, then another. Then it looked directly at Jin and his crew. Hello, it said in a deep voice. The translator on Jin's belt converted the word into his language. Jin stared in shock. The human was speaking calmly, as if waking up to find aliens in its home was normal. You are not human, the human said simply. Interesting. We're sorry, Jin said quickly. We didn't mean to wake you. We crashed. The Krell are hunting us. We had nowhere else to go. The human nodded as if understanding. It climbed out of the pod and stood up straight. It was taller than any of Jin's crew. I am Colonel Du, it said. Military Security Division. It looked around at the flashing lights. How long have I been asleep? Jin swallowed hard. About 500 years, by your counting. The human, Colonel Du, showed no surprise. Longer than planned. Why am I awake? Security protocols, explained Wu. Our presence triggered them. And now there are hostile aliens entering the facility. Colonel Du walked to a wall and pressed his hand against it. A hidden panel opened, revealing weapons inside. These Krell, said Du, taking out a gun. They are enemies. Yes, said Jin. They're building illegal weapons. We discovered their plans. That's why they're hunting us. Another explosion, much closer. The lights flickered again. They'll kill us and take our evidence, said Hana. Then they'll attack other worlds. Colonel Du checked his weapon with practiced hands. How many of them? About 20, said Jin. The human smiled slightly. It was a cold smile that made Jin shiver. Only 20, asked Du. Against one human. That hardly seems fair. Jin blinked in confusion. You can't fight 20 Krell soldiers alone. They're the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Colonel Du placed a small device in his ear. Computer, status report. A soft voice answered. Level 1 through 3 compromised. Unknown hostiles approaching level 4. Automated defenses damage. Activate Protocol 7, ordered Du, and prepare wake-up sequence for Special Team Alpha. Confirmed, said the computer. Waking Special Team Alpha. Colonel Du turned to Jin. You broke our sleep. You brought enemies to our door. He checked his weapon again. But you did us a favor. We've slept too long. What is Special Team Alpha? Asked Sun. My team, said Du. The best soldiers humanity had. He walked toward the stairs leading up, where the sounds of the Krell soldiers could be heard. Stay here, he told Jin and his crew. I'll handle this first wave. Alone? Asked Jin in disbelief. Colonel Du paused at the door and looked back. His eyes were fully alert now, focused and sharp. The universe had one rule about humans, he said. There was a reason for that rule. Then he was gone, moving silently up the stairs toward the approaching Krell soldiers. Supreme Counselor Ta stared at the emergency message in disbelief. His hands shook as he read it again. This cannot be, he whispered. But the words did not change. ALERT. Unauthorized vessel NT Org Solar System. Crash D on Earth. Hibernation facility. Compromised. Human awakening TTCT. An aide rushed into his private chamber. Supreme Counselor, the emergency session is ready. Ta nodded and followed the aide to the council chamber. Unlike the calm meeting of days before, this room was now in chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds shouted over each other. Some wept openly. Silence, roared Ta, his old voice suddenly powerful. The room quieted at once. I have received confirmation, said Ta gravely. A ship did crash on Earth, and at least one human is now awake. Gasps and cries filled the room. There is more, continued Ta. The ship was being chased by Krell vessels. These vessels have also landed on Earth and entered the hibernation facility. Council member Kyo stood up. The same Kyo who had questioned the need to guard Earth. What does this mean? He asked, his voice trembling. Will the humans attack us? I do not know, answered Ta honestly. But I have ordered all records on humans to be unsealed. All council members will now learn why we have feared them for so long. The main screen in the chamber lit up. It showed images of human history, of human wars, of human victories against technologically superior enemies. 500 years ago, explained Ta, humans fought their last war against each other. It nearly destroyed their world. But before that, during their brief time in space, they encountered 3 aggressive species. The images showed the 3 alien races, all with advanced technology, powerful weapons, and vast fleets. Each race attacked Earth, believing humans would be easy to conquer. Each race was utterly defeated. The council watched in stunned silence as the images showed how humans had turned the alien strengths against them, how they had adapted quickly, how they kept fighting even when victory seemed impossible. The Mox fleet was twice the size of Earth's, said Ta. The humans sent ships filled with explosives into the Mox formation, sacrificing their own people to create gaps they could exploit. More images appeared. The Vraks had armor that no human weapon could penetrate, so humans created weapons that attacked the pilots inside, not the armor itself. The final images were the most disturbing. The Zith could regenerate their bodies. They thought this made them immortal in battle. Humans captured and studied them, then created a virus that prevented regeneration. The entire Zith race was extinct within 1 Earth year. Tai turned off the screen. Now do you understand why we never wake the humans? Their bodies are fragile, but their minds. He shook his head. Their minds turn disadvantage into victory. They see possibilities we cannot imagine. What do we do now? Asked a council member. I have dispatched our fastest ships with diplomats aboard, said Ta. We must speak with the awakened humans before they decide we are all enemies. An alarm sounded, and a new message appeared on Ta's screen. His eyes widened. The Krell Emperor has mobilized his entire fleet, he announced. They are heading to Earth. Why would they do that? Asked Kyo. Don't they know the danger? The Krell are young, said Ta. They joined our community after the human sleep began. They believe the stories are exaggerated. We must stop them, cried another council member. If they attack Earth, the humans will retaliate against all of us. Ta looked out at the frightened faces of the council. I fear it may already be too late. Reports from our patrol ships indicate that fighting has begun in the human facility. Against how many awakened humans? Someone asked. Just one, replied Ta. But even one human is dangerous beyond measure. In the silence that followed, Tai thought about the first rule of the galaxy, the rule now broken. He wondered how many would die before this was over. May the stars have mercy on us all, he whispered. Jin and his crew waited nervously on level 7. They could hear distant sounds of fighting many floors above them. What do you think is happening up there? Asked Sun. Before anyone could answer, the door opened. 3 humans walked in. One was Colonel Du. His black uniform now had dark stains on it. Behind him were a man and a woman, also in black uniforms. This is my team, said Du. Lieutenant Yoon, combat specialist. He pointed to the woman. And Lieutenant Han, technology expert. He pointed to the man. Jin stared at them. The Krell soldiers. No longer a problem, said Du simply. Hannah's eyes widened. All 20 of them. You defeated them alone. Not alone, said Du. I had help. He held up a small device. This facility has defensive systems. But still, Jin couldn't believe it. 20 trained Krell warriors. Lieutenant Yoon smiled. It was not a friendly smile. The Krell rely too much on their armor. They move slowly. Their tactics are predictable. Captain Jin, said Du. You said the Krell are building illegal weapons. Show me your evidence. Jin handed over the data chip they had stolen. Lieutenant Han took it and inserted it into a human computer. This confirms what we suspected before hibernation, said Han after studying the data. Other species would eventually threaten Earth. We need to wake more of our people, said Yoon. Colonel Du nodded. Prepare the factory levels. Factory levels? Asked Wu. Follow me, said Du. The aliens followed the 3 humans to a massive door at the end of level 7. Du placed his hand on a scanner. The door slowly opened. Inside was an enormous space, far larger than the hibernation levels. It was filled with machines, assembly lines, and robots, all silent and waiting. Before we went to sleep, explained Du, we built these facilities. When humans woke up, these factories would help us rebuild our world. He pressed a button on a control panel. With a deep hum, the machines came to life. Lights turned on across the vast space. Robotic arms began to move. But we also prepared for the possibility that we might face threats upon awakening, continued Du. So some of these factories were designed for defense. On assembly lines, the robots began building vehicles, weapons, and equipment. It was happening incredibly fast. Amazing, whispered Wu. Your technology was more advanced than we thought. We kept our best technology secret, said Han, even from ourselves. Too many times, our inventions were used to hurt rather than help. A loud alarm sounded. Lieutenant Han checked a screen. More Krell ships are entering Earth orbit, he reported. Many more. At least 50 vessels. Colonel Du's face showed no fear, only determination. We need to wake more of our people. Lieutenant Yoon, begin awakening sequences for Divisions 2 and 5. Yes, sir, said Yoon, moving to a control panel. But that's thousands of humans, said Jin, alarmed. The Council will see this as a threat to the galaxy. We did not choose this fight, said Du calmly. but we will finish it. On a large screen, they could see the Krell ships positioning themselves around Earth. One of them fired a weapon that hit the surface far from their location. "They're targeting other hibernation facilities," said Han. "They want to kill us while we sleep." Du's calm expression finally changed. His eyes narrowed, and his jaw tightened. "So that's how they want to play this," he said softly. He turned to Jin. "Captain, you should know something about humans. We forgive mistakes. We understand accidents, but we do not forgive those who try to murder us in our sleep." He pressed a red button on the main control panel. "Activating full planetary defense grid," announced the computer. On the screen, small objects rose from hidden locations all around Earth. Hundreds of them. Thousands. "What are those?" asked Hana. "Defense satellites," said Han. "Placed in orbit before we went to sleep. They've been waiting for 500 years, just in case." Colonel Du looked at Jin. "You broke the rule that protected the galaxy from us. Now the Krell will learn why that rule existed." Outside in the cold of space, the ancient human weapons powered up, targeting the Krell ships. The real war was about to begin. Jin watched in amazement as more humans woke up. Within hours, hundreds were moving through the facility. They all seemed calm, as if they had expected to wake up to a war. "I don't understand," Jin said to Colonel Du. "Your people have been asleep for 5 centuries. Yet you wake up ready to fight, with no confusion or fear." Du led Jin to a quiet room away from the activity. On a table was a strange helmet with wires. "While our bodies slept," explained Du, "our minds did not." "What do you mean?" asked Jin. "This device," Du pointed to the helmet, "kept our brains active during hibernation. We called it the Dream Teacher." Lieutenant Han joined them. "Our leaders knew that putting our bodies to sleep for centuries, while our planet healed, was necessary. But they feared what would happen if our minds slept too. Would we become primitive?" continued Du. "Would we forget our mistakes? Would we wake up and repeat our violent past?" Han picked up the helmet gently. "So they created this. While we slept, it taught us. It showed us our history, all of it, good and bad. It helped us understand our mistakes. It was also a kind of therapy," added Du. "For 500 years, our minds worked through our violent tendencies, our fears, our hatreds." Jin was confused. "But you're still fighting. You're preparing for war against the Krell." Du smiled sadly. "There is a difference between being willing to fight and wanting to fight. Before our sleep, humans often fought because of anger, fear, or greed. We fought each other over small differences. And now?" asked Jin. "Now we fight only when necessary," said Du, "to protect ourselves or others. And we fight with clear minds, not clouded by hatred." In the command center, Lieutenant Yoon was directing the defense against the Krell fleet. On large screens, Jin could see the battle in space. The human satellites were destroying Krell ships one by one. The weapons were precise, targeting engines and weapons systems, not crew areas. "You're trying not to kill them," observed Jin. "If possible, yes," said Yoon without looking away from the screens. "We want them to retreat, not die." A group of newly awakened humans entered. They wore white uniforms instead of black. One of them, an older woman, approached Du. "Colonel, I am Dr. Ju. My medical team is ready." Du nodded. "Thank you, Doctor. Please prepare for possible casualties." "Of course," said Dr. Ju. She looked at Jin and his crew with interest. "These are the aliens who woke us." "Yes," said Du. To Jin's surprise, Dr. Ju bowed slightly to him. "Then we owe you thanks." "Thanks," repeated Jin in confusion. "We broke the rule. We brought danger to your world." "You also freed us," said Dr. Ju. "We were meant to sleep until our world was healed, but the healing has been slow. We might have slept for hundreds more years." "We've been monitoring the planet's condition," explained Han. "The poison levels are down, but not enough for complete awakening. That's why only the security and medical teams are being woken first. A loud alarm sounded. On the screen, a new ship had appeared. It was much larger than the others. "The Krell Emperor's flagship," said Yoon. "They're sending a message." The screen changed to show a Krell face. The Emperor was large, with gray skin and 6 eyes. He looked angry. "Humans of Earth," said the Emperor. "I am Emperor Vel of the Krell Empire. Your attack on my ships is an act of war. Surrender now, or we will destroy your hibernation facilities one by one." Colonel Du stepped forward. His face was calm as he responded. "Emperor Vel, we did not start this conflict. Your forces entered our world uninvited and attacked us while we slept. Despite this, we have taken care to disable your ships without killing your people. This shows our restraint." The Emperor laughed. "Restraint? The stories say humans have no restraint. That you fight until nothing remains. I think these are lies. I think you are weak after your long sleep." Du's expression didn't change. "You are making a mistake, Emperor. We don't want war with the Krell or anyone else. We ask you to withdraw your forces." "Never," said the Emperor. "Earth will be mine." The screen went dark. Du turned to his team. "They leave us no choice," he said quietly. "Prepare Phase 2 defenses and wake General Kim." The room fell silent when General Kim entered. She was older than the other humans Jin had seen, with gray hair and lines on her face. But her eyes were sharp and clear. Everyone, even Colonel Du, stood straighter when she walked in. "Report," she said simply. Du quickly explained the situation. The general listened without interruption, then looked at the screens showing the battle in space. "The Emperor's flagship?" she asked. Lieutenant Han pointed to a large ship at the center of the Krell fleet. "Here, General. It's protected by their strongest ships." General Kim studied the display for a moment. "Their formation is defensive. They're planning something big." As if to confirm her words, the Krell ships began to move. They formed a tight circle around the Emperor's flagship. "They're charging weapons," reported Yoon. "All ships." "Target?" asked Kim. Yoon checked the data. "It looks like they're all targeting Hibernation Facility 1. That's in North America. It houses the largest number of sleeping humans." Jin gasped. "They're going to kill millions of helpless people." General Kim's face hardened. "Not if we act first." She turned to Du. "Colonel, are the orbital platforms ready?" "Yes, General, but they were designed for defense, not attack." "Then we need ships," said Kim. She looked at Jin. "Your people, are they good engineers?" Jin nodded. "Yes, especially Wu." "Good. I need you to help Lieutenant Han activate our shipyard." "You have ships?" asked Jin in surprise. "Not yet," said Kim. "But we have a shipyard. Underground, in the mountain." Han led Jin and Wu to another large door. Beyond it was an enormous cave. Inside were robots and assembly lines, much like in the weapon factory, but bigger. In the center was a half-built spacecraft. "We started building this before we went to sleep," explained Han. The robots continued the work slowly over the centuries. "It's almost complete," said Wu, examining the ship with expert eyes. "But how will you get it out?" "We're deep underground." Han pointed to the ceiling of the cave. "That opens to the surface. We built this facility under a small lake. The water is now gone, leaving a perfect launch site." While Jin and Wu helped Han, Colonel Du and General Kim prepared their attack plan. More humans were waking up, all of them soldiers or pilots. "The Krell expect us to defend," said Kim to her team. "They don't expect us to attack. That will be our advantage." On the screens, they could see the Krell weapons reaching full power. They were almost ready to fire on the sleeping humans. Kim looked at her people. "This is not what we wanted when we woke up. We hoped for peace, but we will not allow the murder of innocents." She pressed a button on the control panel. Launch sequence initiated. The mountain above them began to rumble. In the shipyard, The ceiling started to open, revealing the sky above. The human ship powered up. "I don't understand," said Jin to Han. "You just woke up. How can you pilot a ship you've never flown?" "During our sleep," explained Han, "our minds trained in simulators. We've flown this ship thousands of times in our dreams." The ship rose smoothly through the opening in the mountain. It was smaller than the Krell vessels, but sleeker, designed for speed and maneuverability. "Attack pattern Alpha," ordered General Kim over the radio. "Target the flagship's weapon systems only." The human ship accelerated faster than Jin thought possible. It moved like nothing he had ever seen, changing direction instantly, with no turning radius. The Krell fleet, focused on their attack on the hibernation facility, didn't notice the human ship until it was too late. It slipped through their formation, firing precise shots at key points on the Emperor's flagship. In the command center, everyone watched as the Krell weapons powered down. The human ship circled back, evading all attempts to hit it. "Their flagship is disabled," reported Yoon with a smile. "No casualties." "Send the message," ordered General Kim. Colonel Du spoke into the communication system. "Emperor Vel, we have disabled your weapons without harming your crew. This is your final warning. Leave Earth space immediately, or we will be forced to take more severe action." The Emperor's angry face appeared on the screen. "This changes nothing. I had 100 more ships coming. Your little vessel can't stop them all." General Kim stepped forward. "Perhaps not, but that's not our only ship." As she spoke, the ground shook again. From hidden locations all around Earth, more ships rose into the sky, smaller, but just as fast as the first one. "You see, Emperor," said General Kim, "we've had 500 years to prepare." 3 days had passed since the first battle with the Krell. Supreme Counselor Te's ship arrived in Earth orbit, along with representatives from 50 worlds. They had come expecting to find destruction. Instead, they found peace. The Krell Emperor's flagship floated silently, surrounded by human vessels. The rest of the Krell fleet had retreated to the edge of the solar system, watching and waiting. "I still don't understand," said Jin to Colonel Du as they prepared to meet the council delegation. "You had the Emperor's ship completely disabled. You could have destroyed it. Why didn't you?" "What would that achieve?" asked Du. "More hatred, more fear, more war. We've had enough of those." In the main conference room of Hibernation Facility 3, now converted to a meeting hall, humans and aliens gathered. General Kim and Colonel Du sat at one end of the long table. At the other end sat Supreme Counselor Tai and the Krell Emperor, who had been brought down from his ship. The Emperor looked angry but also confused. "Why am I still alive?" he demanded. "Why is my crew unharmed?" General Kim answered calmly, "Because killing you would be easy. Making peace is harder." Ta looked at the humans with wonder and fear. "The galaxy has lived in dread of your awakening for centuries. We believed you would bring war and destruction." "We understand why you thought that," said Kim. "Before our sleep, humanity was violent, divided, and dangerous. We fought each other as often as we fought outside threats." "Then what changed?" asked a council member. Colonel Du explained about the Dream Teacher and how humans had used their long sleep to grow beyond their violent past. "We didn't just fix our planet while we slept," he said. "We tried to fix ourselves." Ta nodded slowly. "So the rule to never wake humans was wise," finished Kim. "We needed that time. But now we are awake, and we wish to join the galactic community as partners, not conquerors." The Emperor laughed bitterly. "Pretty words, but I've seen your weapons, your ships. You could destroy us all." "Yes," agreed Kim simply. "Just as you could have destroyed our sleeping people. Having the power to destroy is not the same as the desire to use it." She stood and walked to a large screen on the wall. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue. 500 years ago, we nearly ruined this world with our wars. We learned a hard lesson. That power without wisdom leads to destruction. Jin watched in amazement as the most feared species in the galaxy offered peace instead of revenge. His own people had stories about human cruelty, but nothing about human mercy. General Kim continued, "We propose a new rule for the galaxy. Not never wake the humans, but never stop growing beyond your past." The council members looked at each other. Ta spoke first. "What do you ask of us?" "Three things," said Kim. "First, recognize Earth's independence. Second, help us share what we've learned during our sleep. And third," she looked directly at the Krell Emperor, "dismantle all planet-killing weapons, as all civilized worlds agreed to do long ago." The Emperor glared but said nothing. Ta stood. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I accept your terms. Earth will be welcomed as an independent world." He turned to the Emperor. "And the Krell will surrender their illegal weapons or face sanctions from all Council worlds." Later, as the delegations prepared to leave, Jin found Colonel Du looking out at the mountains. "What happens now?" asked Jin. "Now the real work begins," said Du. "Waking the rest of our people, rebuilding our world, learning to be part of a larger community." "Will all humans be as reasonable as you and your soldiers?" asked Jin. Du smiled. "No, we still have our differences, our passions, our disagreements. We're still human." "That's what worries the galaxy," admitted Jin. "It should," said Du. "But we've learned that our strength isn't in our ability to fight. It's in our ability to change, to adapt, to grow." He looked up at the stars. The universe had one rule about humans. Now humans have one rule for ourselves, to use our strength wisely. Jin thought about all he had seen. How the humans had defeated the Krell without hatred, how they had offered peace instead of revenge. "I think," said Jin, "the galaxy will be better with humans in it." Du nodded. "We hope so. After all, we've had 500 years to think about how to be good neighbors." Above them, the stars shone on a new beginning. The old rule was broken, but perhaps the new one would be better.